Hi guys, and welcome to the Business as Unusual show. My name is Luke. I'm the CEO of Sleeping Giant Media and Giant Campus. We are back. I've had a week's holiday, which was spent in a tent in the rain for part of that, and also building a treehouse. So it has been eventful in my last week, and I'm now back to a mountain of emails and playing catch up. So it's been a great day. But we're going to end it on a high. So we're going to end it on a high. So I hope you have a drink ready. Let's just have a quick look at what's been happening in the news this week. So first off, we've seen children return to school, and that I know some are back today, some are back tomorrow. And if you can open up the windows and lean out, you might just be able to hear several parents rejoicing in the fact that they are now able to have a little bit of peace and quiet at home. In sporting news, Andy Murray has sporting his new metal hip, has made a fantastic comeback in the US Open, fighting back from 2 sets down to beat Nishioka. I did check the pronunciation, that's totally wrong. In his first singles match in a major since January 2019. And in some unusual news, a nudist beach in France is the epicenter for a new spike in COVID-19 cases, with 7,000 people, which sounds like a lot of people for a beach, recently testing positive in one day. Apparently someone vandalised the wall surrounding the beach by drilling a hole into it, but don't worry, the police are currently looking into it. Terrible joke, written by our producer Alex. It's Wednesday. I hope you missed me. Let's get down to business as unusual. Hi guys, and welcome to the Business as Unusual show. For those of you who are new to the channel, if you're checking us on LinkedIn or on any of the other social networks, please do check out our additional content. There's loads of stuff there around digital marketing, how you can either take the first steps into digital or take your digital marketing to the next level. This is the Business as Unusual show, where I'm going to interview a guest, find out a lot about what they've been up to, and also hopefully share some ideas and inspiration to take you to the next point of this crazy roller coaster world that we are currently living in. We're going to talk a lot about sustainability. We're talking to Georgina. I'm going to introduce Georgina right now. Georgina, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well. I felt relaxed for about 10 minutes on Tuesday as I came back to work, and then it's all gone mad, as these things do. But yeah, it was a nice week. It was a nice week off. So
I had you.
You off last week as well?
And it rained the whole time.
Brilliant. Exactly, yeah. It's one of those things where the summer was, obviously we've been very fortunate with the lockdown. It was kind of been very sunny for large proportions. But then when I was like, right, I really need a holiday. And it was raining the entire time, pretty much. But anyway, can't complain too much. Could you give everyone a bit of an introduction to yourself and the business?
Sure. So my name's Georgina Wilson-Powell. I run Pebble Magazine, which started back in 2016, and we are the stylish guide for your sustainable lifestyle. So we are a free digital magazine that talks about everything to do with everything from waste, ethical fashion, slow travel, zero waste, organic food, everything you need for a sustainable life. And then we also expanded into events last year. So we had 4 large-scale events in London. Obviously, we're pivoting and changing things at the moment. But yeah, we're the place to come if you want to find either your conscious consumer audience, or you are a consumer and you want to change up what you buy and how you are working at home.
Fantastic. And I mean, we were sort of talking pre-show, and it's a topic that I've touched upon in the past, but obviously when everything went into lockdown, there was suddenly some elements of sustainable living that were instantly improved, and that was quite exciting. And then suddenly things are maybe not looking so good. What are the sort of the challenges that are you currently facing within the sort of the sustainable living space?
Well, I think everyone got really excited at the beginning, and all these things that we thought could never happen, like planes stopping and people not flying and people not commuting and things like that. You're suddenly faced with the fact these things can happen almost overnight. But on the flip side of that, we're obviously at home more, we're shopping differently, we're shopping, for 1 or 2 weeks with lots more plastic. You've obviously got all the disposable masks, the gloves. And then places not taking reusables anymore, so not taking reusable cups, which we thought we'd kind of won that battle. Over the summer, obviously people doing disposable plastic cups and glasses, which you can kind of understand from a COVID point of view, but for the planet, it's really a backward step. So I think, we've got to adjust to this new normal where we'd perhaps won some battles or felt like we were winning some battles last year, and we've got different battles this year. But then turn it around again, and people do seem to be more conscious about what they're consuming. So perhaps they're shopping less, they're consuming less, and they're thinking about their food waste, and they're growing vegetables. So it's really up and down. There's no one way you can kind of go, oh, it's all terrible or it's all brilliant. But we're definitely facing a whole slew of different challenges that we weren't a year ago.
So what do you think companies and countries are doing in terms of their aspirations for green? Because again, you hear a lot about it in the news that there's obviously this build back better and build back sustainable. So there's the sort of the narratives there to try to talk about sustainable. But from your perspective, do you think that's achievable? Do you think it's something that as soon as crisis strikes, this stuff goes out the window? How do you think it's going to pan out?
It doesn't have to go out the window. That's the sad thing. There are some countries and some cities who really are building back better, and that means making sustainable living and sustainable choices and sustainable business a real heart of everything they do. So Amsterdam, for example, is going to build everything back based on the circular economy. So it's going to become the first circular economy city in the world. That means sort of taking their waste and seeing that their place in the world and how much they're impacting in terms of carbon and waste and everything else, and really making a plan for it. So it's almost becoming like a zero waste city. And I think that we've got this opportunity to really question the structures that we have in place, to question the systems that we have in place. And it's kind of a bit of a lost opportunity if we just immediately spring back to what we had before, when a lot of surveys have actually said we don't want to spring back to our very sort of convenience-driven, fast-paced commuter lifestyle. But it seems like we're being pushed back that way without actually stopping to kind of go, how can we do this better? How can we do this greener? I do think there's going to be a real difference in how different countries and different cities are tackling this kind of rebuilding program.
Yeah. And I guess that's the challenge, isn't it? Because this is always a balance of, to a degree, the profit aspect of businesses as they're trying to make money and they're trying to, recover from this mad situation. And I guess what was, a really important aspect of business culture is trying to include sustainability. A lot of businesses are probably going to have to make some tough choices about their purchasing decisions, which may not then allow them to spend a little bit more money on the sustainable option over the single-use product or something that might not be as friendly to the environment. Again, is there anything you can sort of recommend or sort of say actually that's not the case? It's not as expensive as people might think.
I think definitely it's not as expensive as people do think. I do think that's true, and the more people obviously that buy into that, it gets cheaper and cheaper, obviously economies of scale. But also what's been interesting is that consumers are getting very vocal about what they want and who they want to support. And they are really supporting those businesses that are sticking to their sustainable credentials, that do care about the planet, that are investing in a greener future. People are being pickier about where they're spending their money, whether that's not buying fast fashion anymore, whether that's not buying cheap food so much in the supermarket, but actually choosing like zero waste shops and local farm shops and veg boxes and things. So I think, yes, in the short term it might be a bigger investment than or a harder investment than perhaps was done before. I think in the long term it's still the right thing to do, and also we are, especially when consumers' money is smaller and tighter, and they're going to really watch where they're spending. We are seeing people wanting to spend more with local businesses, independent businesses that talk about how they're helping their communities. And if you're not doing that, you're missing a trick, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think that I saw something talking about the businesses that are doing really well are the ones that are regarded as sustainable, that they're investing more in that. And I think it kind of makes sense in terms of even on a fundamental trust level. Businesses, if someone's doing an ethical job, you're more likely to trust that they're going to be taking care of you as a customer as you come in the door, or get the products delivered or whatever.
There's a lot of room for greenwashing there, and people do trust without perhaps doing their research or sort of questioning enough, and that's a sort of separate issue. But the sort of clients that we have on Pebble, which are sort of everything from ethical, hard bar, zero waste shampoo brands to like, national veg box schemes, their customers are going through the roof. They're going crazy. People want to support a greener planet. People want to support, having less of an impact on nature and the environment. They're seeing that as really key. So I think there's huge opportunity actually there for brands that either are sustainable and want to make a sort of bigger splash, or people who have trying perhaps to pivot into the green space and not been sure about it. Now is the time.
Fantastic. We're going to come back to some more questions in just a second. It is in fact the time for, it's not status quo, sorry. It is time for the tenuous quiz, where we put you through your paces on a completely tenuous quiz. The foreword here is producer Alex got the wrong end of the stick when Luke told him about Pebble Magazine. So he has created this, which is all about rocks. Okay, so we're not going to test your knowledge about sustainability in this part. It's more about pebbles and rocks. Okay. So it's about rocks. According to the Guinness Book of Records, what is the rarest mineral?
I'm going panacite, the last one. Oh, close.
Well, I thought you got it right, to be honest with you, because I was like, yeah, and no, and it's just me not being able to read.
Let's go with that.
Okay, that one. Agreed. What classic song does this depict?
Rock Around the Clock.
It's got to be correct. It is correct.
Hopefully.
Amazing. I like that one, Alex. Good work.
Well done.
What song is this?
We Will Rock You.
It is.
These are brilliant.
This is good work. Good work, Alex. Who was Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's almost cast to play?
Please tell me it was Iron Man.
I think it was Willy Wonka, which I think I saw this before.
Interesting.
I wouldn't. Yeah, that doesn't seem right to me, but Iron Man I would have gone with. What makes a rock a pebble? Ooh.
Oh God, I probably should know this.
One.
Really should know this. Is it the size? Does it have to be under a certain size?
Here we go. A pebble is that supposed to be a class or a classed? I don't know. A rock with a particle size of 4 to 64 millimeters based on the Crumbian pi scale. Yeah. Okay. You're not supposed to know that one, I think, Georgina. There's nothing that's going to help you with explaining the name of the business behind that one. I thought that might be really insightful, but no. There we go. I think you've done pretty well, though, to be fair. That was
thank you.
Impressive.
We did once have someone on Twitter who was very upset the magazine was not about pebbles.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you can't please all the people all the time is the first kind of message of that. So we're going to come back in just a second. I'm going to use this point to go to the halfway mark. It's 44 minutes past. We're slightly ahead of time, but I just feel like this is the right time. We're going to come back in just a second. It's the halfway mark. Mark Hamill there, halfway mark, halfway through the show, or slightly ahead of that. I know it's a little bit early, but we're flying through. One of the questions, and I don't know this is not loaded, and I don't know the answer. Maybe this will be something that's covered in your book, which we can maybe go into in a bit. Is around deliveries and the concept of. So obviously there's Amazon Prime and everyone can have things delivered. At some point, assuming that everyone just used delivery over going out to get stuff, does it become sort of does the economies of scale mean that it's a more eco-friendly way of getting products?
It's a really difficult one because this is actually in my book. I'm desperately trying to remember the research, but basically the research so far can only point to the fact that we haven't all switched to delivery only. We're buying online and we're buying, on the high street. So we're kind of doubling up. And I know we've written a lot before about how people ordering loads of stuff online and then sending it back, and that kind of like free return idea that we've all become a bit hooked on is actually causing a huge amount of damage because you're sort of putting twice as much postage and delivery and journeys into the system than there should be. And often those products, when you send them back, don't go back on resale. They get burnt or they get destroyed. So especially for fast fashion, it just gets burnt. So all those resources that's gone into the product to begin with are then wasted as well. So there are other eco problems with online shopping other than just the delivery.
What happens in the real world though? So say for example, you buy something, so you drive to the shop to buy it, you then bring it back home, you then go, no, I don't want it. So you then go back. So you're still transporting, and it might then be burnt, I assume.
You still are, but there are people who order, 50 things online a week and then send back 30 of them. It's the scale that's the problem. But also, so on the flip side, which is why none of these things are ever easy to answer, if you're driving to 4 or 5 different farm shops and 4 or 5 different supermarkets to find your organic produce and your zero waste shop and everything, that is then racking up more carbon emissions than buying it online. So it all depends on how you're using the systems and what you're doing. If, on the other hand, you're in a small town and you're walking everywhere and you're walking to your butchers or you're walking to the supermarket, then obviously that's going to be the greenest thing. And I think part of this problem of getting people to sort of choose the green thing more often is the complexity behind each issue. It's very rarely, sadly, a kind of like, yes, do this, this is the best option. Where those things are, we try and champion them. But I think it's about thinking things through. Everything that you do has a consequence. It has a carbon emission. So trying to work out what those are in your situation and what's going to be best for you is the way forward.
And so maybe just talking a bit more about your book, could you maybe give us a bit of an overview of the book, what it covers, and then we can sort of dive into some of those kind of specifics?
Sure. So it's called Is It Really Green? It's all about tackling the eco dilemmas that you have at home. So a lot of it is question and answer based. Is it better to wash up by hand? Is it better to use a dishwasher? All the kind of questions that you might have a niggle over or not be sure what to do. So then you don't do anything. We're all human, and if it's something hard, we just kind of put it aside and don't do it. It's out in January, I think the 7th of January. It was actually due out in May, but we had to push it back, obviously, because of COVID. And what's been really interesting is we've rewritten a lot of it for a post-COVID working at home kind of world.
Challenge, yeah, because again, things will have changed. And guys, just in chat, if you've got questions, so if you've got any, some of those examples, so is it better to wash up by hand or use a dishwasher, put those in the chat, because I think again, we can't go into all of them because number one, we don't want to spoil the entire book before it's released, but I'm sure there's some that we can kind of exactly some that we can cover off. Is there an example of some of the almost like you mentioned the one around the dishwasher? Can you give us the answer to that one? Again, I don't want to spoil all of the book, but just some of the key bits.
Well, it's dishwasher, but only if you run it full and on an eco cycle. So again, it's a yes, but.
A yes, but yeah.
Which a lot of them are. We talked a lot about, how to make an office paperless and all that kind of stuff, which we've obviously had to redo, and how to travel more eco, in a more eco-friendly way, which we're all kind of doing now, whether we like it or not. So there's a lot around food waste as well. How much we would all have to sort of, you'd only have to save a little bit of the food that you throw away to have a big difference. It goes through each sort of section of the home, looking at things in your garden, like even kind of what you make your decking out of and how that impacts things, what your grass should be, what plants to have in your garden. We're just trying to show everybody that there are millions of ways that you can live greener that don't impact your life negatively, that are a benefit and don't cost the earth either.
Okay. Interesting. And is it? And I think you mentioned before, sort of pre-show, there were some surprising ones in there that people may not have even thought of. Is it an example of one that's quite surprising that in your research you kind of were like, oh, okay, I didn't expect that outcome?
Actually, the dishwasher one I didn't expect. You just kind of go, oh, it's easier to wash by hand.
I really hoped it would be the case, if I'm honest, because I remember having this conversation with my dad probably about 15 years ago, where he was arguing that it was I think he's probably more about cost actually, and I was like, Dad, it'll probably be cheaper because actually you group it all together, does all of it, and should use less less water in the process of doing it. So, although I think he was, as I said, arguing cost, but I'm glad to hear that because I was keen to keep using the dishwasher if I can.
Definitely, and I think as well, it is about how you use things. But I know we had some ones about books and in ebooks, like an e-reader,
Hmm.
because obviously you think, okay, well, an e-reader is better because you're not buying books or time and paper, but actually you've got to read 25 books a year to offset all the resources that goes into an e-reader, which is that's a fair few books.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, no, that is a fair point as well. And I'm pleased to say that because I bought an electric car pre-Christmas, which hasn't actually obviously got many miles on it at the moment because I haven't really been out and about. But I'm pleased to say that that's a positive, isn't it? That's okay. That's a good thing. I know there's probably a but
Definitely.
there. I know there's probably a but there.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a whole issue around, not issue, but there's a debate with electric cars about how the batteries are created and what's mined for the batteries. But on the flip side, we are going to move to electric. Everyone's going to move to electric at some
It's probably
point.
that
So
economies of scale then, isn't it? It's that tipping point.
definitely,
Yeah.
and we try and make the point both in the magazine and in the book that nothing is 100% sustainable. Nothing doesn't have an impact. Like even every e-cent has a
Mm.
carbon footprint. So it's about weighing up what's best for you, because some people won't have a car,
Mm.
other people won't have children. It's not going to be the same for everybody.
One interesting one, and Sean, who is our resident kind of member of the Green Squad, which, as I was saying, we have a Green Squad at the office, we talk about what we want to be trying to sort of do to try to make the business more sustainable and help educate and inform the team on some of these aspects. So I think your book is going to be some good reading for us. One of the questions that I guess that we have. So I went vegan 2 years ago, mainly because of Sean Staunton nagging me, but I think he's onto something around the sustain, and particularly for me, it was a sustainability aspect. It was a case of actually, I wasn't aware of the impact that agriculture has on the environment, which seems to be pretty significant in terms of the carbon
Huge.
footprint. So I made the decision. I was like, look, I didn't know any of that, and it was maybe me just being ignoring it and trying to just enjoying the food rather than thinking about the consequence and the impact that it has. There he is in the chat. So he's loving that. Thanks, Sean. The question, though, that I have again with my wife as well is around sort of wool/leather versus polyester in terms of actually there's a vegan decision, but then there's also an eco decision to be made as well. And actually maybe the animal-based product, although it's an animal, which is not great from a vegan perspective, it may have a longer life, it may have a lesser impact on the overall. But again, how do you try to reconcile that one, or how do you balance that one?
It's a really hard one because, like you sort of pointed out, the vegan decision isn't perhaps the same. It's definitely not the same as a plastic-free decision. It might not be the same as an environmental decision. So it depends on what priority you have in your head of what is more important to you and what issue you care more about. There is something called there's a responsible wool mark, which makes sure that all the sheep that have been farmed for wool have been treated fairly and looked after, and it's all very lovely, rather than again the mass industrial scale, which is really where we have the problem. The industrial farming complex and all that kind of thing. It's and again, there's a lot of greenwashing. A lot of people are calling things vegan leather when they're actually made of it's an oil and petrol derivative.
Oh, really?
So it's a plastic that doesn't go anywhere. So it's really complicated. You can't kind of swap one thing for another and go, okay, tick, I'm totally covered off. Sadly, I think like a lot of the decisions in the book and a lot of decisions in real life, it comes down to weighing up what you care more about and what you believe is more important. And that's not great. Ideally, we'd have just a thing that we could swap to, and those things will come in the future. We're doing a lot of research and sort of using algae and biotech and fabrics that you can grow from oat, wheat, and all this kind of thing. But we're not there yet.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a complex one, but I think it's getting easier. And there's a comment in chat. I believe it's Kevin Moran about has it made a difference going vegan? I mean, I personally really enjoyed doing it. To be honest with you, I think I feel healthier, better because of it. It's not as difficult as I thought it was going to be, although my wife, who does the majority of our cooking, might disagree with that one. But there are more products being made available, so I'll certainly give it a try. And again, I don't think you have to go vegan, but I think there's possibly a cut down in meat consumption, if you're from an environmental perspective, is probably before I get too preachy. And again, this is why I've got to be careful with Sean Staunton in the chat, because there's a high horse. He's going to get on it. Right, before we get sidetracked too much further on that, let's go to the status quote now. So this is where we look at 3 different quotes, and I want to get your take on which one you like, which one you love, and which one you want to avoid. So it's this kind of the snog, marry, avoid game for quotes, which is
Okay.
let's have a look at what we've got. So first quote for today: act as if what you do makes a difference. It does. Ooh, very, very relevant. Okay. Quote number 2: success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It's the courage to continue that counts. Winston Churchill. He's a very good quoter, isn't he? And number 3: never bend your head. Always hold it high. Look the world straight in the eye. Helen Keller. So what have we got? Let's have a look at those 3. So act as if you want. Act as if what you does makes a difference. It does. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It's the courage to continue that counts. Never bend your head. Always hold it high. Look the world straight in the eye. What do we think of those?
Is snog the one I want the most?
Snog's Mary's the sort of the best. Oh, then snog's sort of like, okay. Avoid is dislike.
Okay, I think the last one I'd go avoid.
Yeah.
And then I think, Winston, I think I'd do the snog.
Mm-hmm. Snog for Winston.
And snog for Winston. And then the first one, and that's the marry one. That's very much our ethos on Pebble. Our hashtag is everyday activism, and it's all about empowering people to make a change. So that is perfect.
Absolutely, and you think and this is the thing is like I have a conversation with a few people about my decisions around going vegan and the impact on the environment, and there's a lot of people who are. They're less than keen on the idea, and they feel that they can't make a difference. What would your comment be to that?
I think everyone can make a difference, and it doesn't all have to be in the same way. So going vegan or going flexitarian or just reducing your meat intake or actually swapping to organic, they're all various different ways that you can make a difference. I read I went to a conference and they said, each week you've got 21 chances to make a change in the world, and they're your 3 meals a day. So can you make half of them vegan or vegetarian, or, can you support organic farmers instead if you don't feel comfortable moving to being completely plant-based? So I think there's a sliding scale always, and I think we really need to get away from kind of almost shaming people if they don't go far.
Agreed.
Also pointing fingers. Everyone can make a difference, and it doesn't even have to be amongst food. Just reducing your plastic waste or your carbon emissions in terms of where you're driving or using your car. There's lots of different ways to do it. There's not going to be a single answer for everybody.
Absolutely. And I'm going to make sure I've got that recorded, and I will play that to my friends as and when they start having a go at me about some stuff. But yeah, it's not, as I think, for me it works to make that decision, because I struggle to kind of partly do it. I think I would justify it to myself if I was partly doing it, whereas I think for me it's kind of either in or out, but again, I don't think that's the same for everybody. So thank you. I will replay that before we wrap things up. Any businesses that you wanted to sort of shout out to, just to say hi to, who potentially have been doing some really good things over the last few months?
Well, I want to shout out to Treedom, who are our tree planting partner, because we do a lot of work with them and they are amazing. They've planted 1.2 million trees over the last 10 years. Wow. And unlike other sort of tree planters, they actually monitor and track each tree over the next 10 years. And if something happens to it, they replace it. They're really in it for the long haul. And I think that just what they do is amazing. There's also, we work a lot alongside like people like Toast Ale and other social enterprises who make amazing products and then drive all the profits back into their businesses. So there's a huge amount of different businesses we work with. It's so hard to choose because we work with hundreds.
It's amazing.
Which I want to just flag up Treedom as because they're our partner as well.
Fantastic. No, well, it's brilliant. I mean, it's great to see that there's a positive vibe, because I think sometimes the challenge is it does feel a bit doom and gloom in the kind of the renewable or the kind of the environmental living space. It does seem sometimes it's a challenge.
Not in our world. It's not in Pebble world. It's all positive.
Love it.
the reasons I started was because there are some amazing inventions and innovations going on, and it is an exciting sphere to work in. We're talking about the solutions of the future. How can that not be exciting?
I
You know,
totally
come and
agree.
join us.
I love it. I'm loving the energy. I'm loving the enthusiasm. And anyone watching, this is why to get on board with it. So, Georgina, it's been absolutely fantastic having you here today. Thank you very much for sharing those insights, and best of luck with the book launch
Thank
that's
you.
coming up next year as well. 7th of January, is that right?
7th of January, but you can pre-order it now on Amazon and Hive.
Pre-order that, everybody. I'm going to go and sort that out. That's that'll be a fascinating read. So thank you very much, Georgina.
Thanks so much.
We're going to be back again on Friday. There I go, in the middle of that screen. We're going to be back here again on Friday. So thanks very much for tuning in. We'll be here at 4:30. So bring yourself a beer. We can close up the week, interview somebody else, and hopefully enjoy some more business as unusual. Thanks very much.